It's November, and every teacher knows what that means. Parent-teacher conferences. Let's talk about that. Hello everyone, welcome back to Teacher's Place. My name is Mr. Lobach, and for those of you who don't know me, I am a Ontario certified teacher. I've taught in the UK, I've taught in China, and now I'm back in York Region teaching French immersion in a grade 2 classroom. Before we get started, if you want to see more videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in my new podcast, Teacher's Place, it's a podcast where I talk to some of my colleagues, some of my friends about education, about traveling as a teacher, and more. So take a look at that as well. Today, I'm going to give you 5 of my best tips for parent-teacher view conferences, because we can all know how stressful they can be. Whether you're in your first year of teaching or you're in your 30th year of teaching, it's never a done deal. You're never going to have a 100% smooth experience. These 5 tips will help you smooth out that experience, and I personally use these tips for every parent-teacher interview that I do. And so far this year, throughout my parent-teacher interviews, I've had a blast, I've met all the parents, and it's been great and smooth sailing so far. So without further ado, let's get right into the tips. Tip number 1, be prepared. So, what I mean by that is, as a teacher, I have X amount of students, and I just don't have the capacity in my head to know exactly what I want to say to each and every parent, whether it's something concerning, whether it's something positive. I have to keep all of that in mind for every single one of my students. So what do? I'm prepared. I make sure that I have a Google document with all of my students' names, their parents' names, their time slot for their interview, and I have a comment section for the parents where I will type in any comments that they have for me and about their students or their child's education. And I have my own personal comments that I have on the side. So I write these comments before the interview, so it's exactly what I want to tell the parents about their student. It's comments during the interview, so how anything that I say to the parents, anything that I remember maybe, and after the interview. So if something important came up or if there was a serious question or something, I would write that in and highlight it and make sure that I address it when I can. So being prepared is really important. You want to spend less time thinking about your answers and more time actually communicating to parents what matters: their child's education, their emotional well-being, and their behavior. So have that plan, make sure you have it all written out, because it saves you a ton of time later on. It saves you headaches, it saves you from maybe putting your foot in your mouth and saying something that you didn't mean to say or that you shouldn't have said. So just keep in mind, have a plan. Tip number 2, be sociable. What do I mean by that? Of course you're sociable, you're a teacher. You wouldn't be a teacher if you weren't sociable. But you have to be sociable with the parents. So don't just jump into the interview right away. Don't just start talking about behavior and education and emotional growth. Actually talk to the parents, especially now with the pandemic going on. I haven't met all of my parents yet. So I actually just had my parent-teacher interviews, and I just met all the parents for really the first time. I've spoken to a few of them outside for child pickup and drop off, but outside of that, a lot of my students take buses, so I really haven't met anyone yet. So be sociable, make a little bit of small talk, ask them how they're doing, ask them how their day's going, because they're people too. They need to be, we all need social interaction, and it's not fun when you just jump in straight to business right away. You want to have a good conversation, you want to set the tone right for your parents. You want to say, hey, yes, I'm your child's teacher, but I'm a person too. And that's how I start off all my interviews. I don't start off with, okay, this is what your child is doing, this is how they can improve, blah, blah, blah. I say, hey, my name is Eric Lobach. How are you? How's everything going? I hope you're well. I hope everything's okay during this time. And then eventually we'll get to the interview. And we will get to the interview because that's what they're there for. Tip number 3, know where to start. Always, and I mean always, choose the proper place to start when you're talking to parents. So after the social niceties are gone, now's the time to get into your interview. Make sure you start off on a positive note with your parents. Make sure you don't start throwing things at them, throwing anything negative at them right away. You want to start off with something positive, because that sets the tone for the interview. It says, hey, here's how your child has shown that they have grown or improved, or here's what they do really well in. And we're very proud of your child for doing that. And then afterwards, you can get into, all right, here is where I have some concerns, here's where I have a question for you, here's where they can maybe improve, and you can help them improve. So make sure you start off on a positive note to set a positive tone for that interview. Tip number 4, no surprises. So it's a little bit late for this tip, so I hope everyone's been keeping it in mind in their own heads, but it's November now. If you've had any serious concerns from the beginning of the year or in October, they should have already been addressed with the parents prior to this interview. This interview is a detailed account now of what has already been addressed from up until this point. So if there is any serious concerns, you should have already addressed it with the parents. And if there's anything that you had a question about, that should have already been addressed with the parents prior to the interview. Now, obviously, things do come up. Maybe there was a behavior issue that afternoon and you wanted to save it for the parents, and that's perfectly fine. But if there was something from way earlier, you should have already talked to the parents about it. This is not the time to drop big bombs on parents. This is the time to talk about how students are doing and where they can improve. You should have already addressed all of this way earlier. And finally, the best tip that I can give any teacher, whether you're a first-year teacher, a 30th year teacher, whether you are doing parent-teacher review conferences for the first time, for the 100th time, it's be relaxed. Just calm down. You're all in this together. So, this isn't a job interview. You're not going to get fired for having a bad interview with a parent. They are there to help their child, and so are you. Everybody is in it for the same goal. Most parents, all they want to do is see their kids succeed, and you're there to help them do that as well. So be straightforward with them, talk to them about what they need to know, and make sure that you make yourself available to them as well. Tell them at the end of the interview, if they have any more questions, if anything else comes up, tell them, don't hesitate to call me, don't hesitate to email me, or we could set up another interview like this. Because parents always have questions about their child's education. It's just how life works. My parents wanted to know how I was doing in school all the time, and as a kid, I really wouldn't tell them all the time. You're the teacher. Your job is to tell them. So be relaxed, just tell them exactly what they need to hear. How their child's doing in school. Are they making friends? How's their behavior in class? Are they happy? That's really all parents want to know. Everything else will come later. It'll come in the progress reports, in the report cards, and then you can readdress it from there. Have another chat with parents. Always keep that line of communication open. And if you ever do have any concerns about talking to specific parents, it's never a bad idea to consult with your senior team members, to ask them maybe to even sit in and talk with the parents with you during the interview. Because we're on Zoom right now, it's pretty easy to set up a conference call or have a chat at some point at a different time, because having a phone call I think is much easier than the parent coming in, even though it is nice to see them. So again, if you have any concerns with any specific parents, ask a team leader, talk to them about why you have these concerns, and then get them to sit in with you. It's never a bad idea to have an extra set of ears and eyes and make sure that everybody is on the same page. So those are my 5 tips for how to survive parent-teacher conferences. And if you have any more tips, please leave them in the comments down below, because I know that if you are a teacher, there's more than 5 tips to survive parent-teacher conferences, but these are the best ones that I could come up with. I want to see what you can come up with. And if you're a teacher and you're watching this, good luck on your parent-teacher interview conferences. I'm sure they'll go just great. And again, if you want to see more videos like this, please leave a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out that podcast that I'm starting up. I'll have a new one up sometime next week, talking with another colleague about how they've traveled around the world and how they've taught. So, as always, have a great day. Bye-bye.